Akiva for opening up the Simcha for this purpose. I also want to thank all the Rabbanim of the neighborhood for giving the chizuk that they did behind this event and encouraging that it happens and that it's true Ratzah. I also want to personally thank those who were involved in the detailed organization of the Kehilla, Yaakov Miller, Yaakov Wiederman, not leaving and all those who I have forgotten to mention. I also want to just give a brief introduction. Tonight's event, of course, is focused on finances. But, of course, finances are not just limited to dollars and cents and bank accounts. They have far-reaching consequences from shalom bayis, chinuch, to health, both emotional health, physical health, and everything else in between. The challenges and the nisyonos of parnasa are nothing new. They've been around since the Raintree but the exact nature and form of how parnasa, what the challenges are, those have changed over time. And each time we have changes, we need to have new hadracha. What does the Torah want from us now? How are we supposed to do things differently? And to be able to have practical tools to be able to implement those ideas and those strategies. And so, as being involved, anytime I'm involved in anything that affects the cloud, it never ceases me to fascinate me. So wherever there's an issue, wherever there's a challenge, there's always some people that will rise up and say, hey, here I am, I want to help, what can I do? And so it's my privilege tonight to introduce our speakers, Rabbi Eliezer Gewirtzman, besides for being a Rav in Coventry and wearing many other hats in Lakewood, somehow finds time to be able to dedicate much of his time, many hours, to Khal, to Kehillas, to educate, to guide, to couples, navigate this challenge. And he's here tonight to be able to share some of his insights. And I also would like to thank Doni Brodie, who's come to us all the way from Muncie, a person who also is involved in many, many endeavors, and somehow finds time to be able to spend countless hours to be able to help counsel, give guidance to couples, to be able to help with this particular challenge. As Chazal tells us, the Ikka is not what we talk about, the Ikka is what we do about it. And the goal of tonight is not just to hear speeches, the goal of tonight is to actually take action when we leave. And my bracha to the presenters is that they should continue to have the chayv to be able to do their avodas, and to this gathering that should be in Messiah Shemaim, that Chazal promised us, the Sefer, the sky, we should be able to see much outside. Amen.
Rabbi Schwartz, really all the Rabbanim of the neighborhood put together an event as the Inei Ha'eda, as those who are looking at Tzibur as a whole, for what the tzrachim are, what the needs are, understood that discussing finance is something, as the Rav mentioned, not just dollars and cents, but ruchnius, and something that affects us in almost every area of life. Where it tells us in Mevakshei that fights in the home, ain't a bar, no, just get through. Most shalom bayis issues come back to finances. And therefore, it's important that we come together to address this issue. Our goal tonight is not to discuss Elam. Baruch Hashem, Avchashem V'Ramonim, who guide us in that realm and how to get to Olam Haba. Our primary goal tonight is to discuss Olam Haba. When you're happy with Olam Haba, you tend to have more Olam Haba. But I would like to focus tonight specifically on Olam Haba. And that is, we all want for ourselves, our family, our children, to be happy. And the question is, how can we have a relationship with our finances that will ultimately bring happiness? Mesilas Yesharim tells us that one of the biggest tools of the Yetzer Hara is to ensure that people don't think. Because if a person would stop and think, his life would be different. But Baruch Hashem, the Yetzer Hara has many tools. Making parnasa is not easy. The phones on our belts, or wherever we find them, definitely don't help the situation. And Baruch Hashem, the Yetzer Hara has us exactly where He wants us. The days go, turn into weeks, turn into months, turn into years, and we never stop and think. And if we can set a goal for tonight, Bayu Cheshbon, let's stop and think, what is my relationship with my finances? And how do I ensure that my finances are used to make me happy, as opposed to just allowing my impulse to just schlep me and my finances in any direction that it could. I think if we would analyze why people in the world spend money, there are three reasons we can suggest as to why people feel the need to buy stuff and to spend money. First and foremost, so they can enjoy life. I want to enjoy my life. If I buy things, I'll enjoy life. If I go on vacation, I'll enjoy myself. If I don't, I won't. So we have this idea that if we want to enjoy life, the more things we buy, the more things we'll enjoy. The second thing is, very important thing, you need to keep up. Whether we went to Beis Yaakov and we were taught that you can't be a neb, or whether we didn't go to Beis Yaakov, and there's other words to describe it. But the bottom line is, we all have a deep ingrown desire to want to keep up. We don't want to look like never cases. We don't want to look like losers. We want, through our spending, we want to be able to keep up. And the last thing, and we'll speak about this at the end, the idea of being Khal. We all, in some way, shape, or form, want to feel that we're a schwitzer. Just a regular guy, doesn't feel so good. So somehow, if through our money we can make the statement that we're it, then that's a reason for us to have a drive to be rich and to be able to spend and to be able to put cars in a driveway next to a house that maybe we could or can't afford. But this way, people know who I am. The question is, you ask any 8-year-old, when you get older, do you want to be rich? 100%. Yeah. Why? Because ultimately, I can buy whatever I want. And then, I say, I'll get this, and then I'll go here, and then. Ultimately, he's going to tell me, hopefully, and then I'll be the happiest man in the world. Now, I know somebody, we all know him. He used to live in New York, now he lives in Florida, Mar-a-Lago, who has all kinds of things. And for some reason, it wasn't good enough. It didn't make him happy. One of the biggest chazal that I appreciate, the older that I get and the more that I see the world, it's not a vitz. It's not like, like you learn Kehilla when you're 6 years old. No. My friend Yitzi, he's a giver. Oh yeah,
in essence, if you have all the money in the world and you're not happy, if you're missing, you're not secure. You're depressed. You're missing. And if you have whatever you have, and you're missing nothing, you're the happiest man in the world. What more do you need? So, Ezu Asher Asamech B'Chalko is not just a cute part of Chazal. It's the essence of understanding human nature. And what drives us to be rich, says Chazal, don't go down the highway. Just turn. The only way is through the exit. It's not continuing. And the truth is, it's really deeper than that. Because what happens? There's something that we want. A car, a large home, a beautiful vacation, whatever it is. And we get it. And we live in the home for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. Now all of a sudden there's a few nicks around, a few dents, and we get used to it. So in essence, what happens is, when we look for luxuries, after we experience them a number of times, they become necessities. Chazal tells us that if you have a person who's used to being rode around on a white horse, and he has riders in front of him screaming, here comes Mr. Rich Man, you're mechuyev to collect money that he should be that way. Can you imagine if you had a guy like that in this neighborhood, and the guy that came around knocking at every door, and you gave him a check, and then 10 minutes later you saw the white horses? What kind of covenant would that be? Right? He's running by the same people who just bought him the horse. The Torah says, when we get addicted to something, when we get too used to something, it becomes such a necessity. So we go and we spend money on items to make us happy, and before we turn around, they're necessities. You ever thought about it? A mashulach comes through the neighborhood here, straight out of Bnei Brak or Beis Sha'ar, and he looks at the homes and he looks at the grass, and there's more grass in front of your house than there is in the whole city of Yerushalayim. Okay? And he looks at this and he goes, "Wow, amazing! Look at this! I have what, like two bedrooms plus my Chevra. We have like a hole in the back. And one day I can make an addition. I really collect money. And look at this guy." Question: are we any happier than him? Are we happier with our 4,300 square foot home? If I sound outdated, I apologize. Than he is with his 715 meters, whatever he has there? No, probably not. Because what's the answer? We get used to something. And once we get used to something, that becomes the facts. Case in point. When I was a young child, I davened in the yeshiva. The yeshiva had its shir of Gevir. So every once in a while, the Gevir would make a kiddush, and he would go all out. He would serve kugel. Every once in a while, he would serve child. We would go dash into that kiddush like we never saw food in our lives. Almost as much as the kids today go after the meatballs. But what happened? We got used to cooking, we got used to chopping. Now we're on to the next. And then the next, and then the next. So in essence, when we stop and think about it, and we decide it's time to spoil ourselves, or it's time to spoil our children, we'll get back to the pressures in the classroom. We'll get there. What in essence we're doing is pushing up a standard, making us more dependent on more stuff, thereby requiring it as a necessity, to the point that if Chas v'Shalom one day we can't have it, Chazal tell the guy that's stuck of our town, go give it to him, because Pasha can't manage without it. And that's ultimately what we're doing. So we start off thinking that we're creating an outlet, But ultimately, what we end up with is creating a monster that becomes harder and harder to control. A contractor once told me that if not for the saying, that once you're doing it, may as well, he wouldn't have it. If people would just build houses, no. But every guy builds a house, and once he does it, may as well, that's what all the parnas goes. And we'll fall into that trap. Or, you build a house. First thing you need to do is look at the neighbors. Person can't look inwards. You have to look outwards. And therefore, putting in tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars to be able, because this is what we have to do. Looking around the room, many people here that were in yeshiva with me when I first got married. So they'll probably remember this. Most couples had one car. A lot of us had one cell phone. And when you moved a little further out, when you moved to Raintree, you got a second car. There was something called a local car. Right? You get a car, nice to us. I remember one of my friends, Rabbi Gewirtzman, was only able to fill up his tank halfway because it was a gas leak in the second half of the tank. So that's it. And we lived that way. I had two cars, but people only had one. And that was, we were happy. Today, no such thing. We need two gazumta cars. Are we any more happy with our two gazumta cars than we were back then? Not really, but we're stuck with the bills. And the truth is, it's not just that. Every area of our lives is like that. How big was a house 20 years ago? 5 years ago, I moved to the villas to be near Coventry. Speak to a guy who was 45, 50 years old. Whoa, villas, huh? Speak to a guy who's 25. Did you love doing addition? Right? That's what happened. Right? Houses. Think about simchas. How far we've come. This picture, that picture, the other picture. Designer clothing. What about hasagas in alcohol? Prices for restaurants. You can't just go out to the restaurant and leave. Jewelry, watches, vacations. Just keeps adding up. And we made ourselves learn that this is what we have to do. People make simchas. This wall's not good enough. That wall's not good enough. And this and that and the other. This flower, the other thing. Who stops? And people push themselves beyond their expectations, beyond their abilities. You ever stop thinking about who eats by your chasana? Make a chasana, who eats it? Your family that helped pay for it. And a few of your friends who came the wrong 10 minutes and are very disappointed because the music just stopped. So they sit down and eat supper again. Right? For that, what's time to go to chasanas? Who? For that, I said this, I said that. For what purpose? We almost, we like most of it a little bit. And a lot of this comes because there are people who are in business, and the whole parnasa is to be able to show us how this is important, and that's important, and the third thing is important. And we push it before we even turn around. We said we need it, and we're not happy. So what happened? We basically took a lot of hard-earned money, a lot of hours at work, and we basically robbed all our happiness away. Because we spent it, we got used to it, we need it, and now we're back to where we were 20 years ago when we got married. Living life and looking for the next opportunity to be able to enjoy life. We're just $150,000 a year later. That's what we did. And one of the questions we really need to ask ourselves is, and the truth is, this is the question also. We all have our son that wants normal. I'll start with Ruchni saying, okay. Is it normal to be backward on the whole step? Well, if you grew up, then you're backward on the whole step. It's normal. If you grew up, then it's not. It's not. Is it normal to go on vacation and miss a minion? Some people tell you yes. Some people tell you no. That's what you did. You grew up. How long is it normal to have a kafas full? That was one of the biggest nightmares. Right? How long? Well, if I grew up 5 minutes, it should be 4. If I grew up a half hour, it should be 26. Right? There's a certain understanding of what's normal. And when we push the bar so that we should give our children happiness, all 8 of them, you know what we did? The pressure that we put them on to be able to live up to what's normal, because I grew up like this. Who said we're doing them any favors? Very often we're not. And we don't stop to think, no, my kid needs it, I'm going to make him happy. We don't stop. And therefore, that's what happens. Ellen and I will say, well, what can we do? Everyone can afford it. The Haraya, everyone's doing this. On my way out of the house tonight, one of my children asked me, Tati, how did you get stuck in this money thing? Like, how did this happen? So, I'll share with you the answer. Rabbi Coventry realized, young, immature Chevra, they need a shmuz about money. So we put up a sign, and we're making a service in a true drasha for women, as we do every year, asking every woman to please come. Important message, please come. So it's 400 so women in Coventry. We set up 100 chairs, 80 on the side, just in case that's always how you do it, right? And most of the chairs were empty. As bad as good as we did, most of the chairs were empty. And I spoke about this idea. And somehow, some way, they took it, they sent it out the next day. And before I knew it, I couldn't walk down the street. Oh, the street down. Last I checked, I'm not FDR. I'm not asked to speak. I'm not a gracious speaker. So what happened? The answer is very simple. Everyone's in jail. Everyone feels that they must be the only one. And some rabbi got up and said, no, we're all like this. Oh, goodbye. So all of a sudden, everybody felt a certain connection, like, someone actually made it, that it's just not me. Well, as one guy told me, I always knew my neighbor didn't have money. Now you confirmed it. Very good. But upon it, it's fake. The world we live in is fake. And we're all running after, and we have an image. An image of what? An image of who? Schwartz mentioned to me that the island here roughly is around 40 years old, give or take. That's the average age of it. So it reminded me of the son that develops us all. When you're 20 years old, you realize you better watch out. The world is watching. And you have to make sure that, you're living, that, you have to live to impress. You turn 40, you say, you know what, enough of this. I don't care what the world thinks. I gotta live life, I'm moving on. And when you're 60, you realize that they would never look. What does that develop? My son, I was turning 40. So we're going into the next stage. How do we make sure that we're doing this responsibly? So I think the answer is a very simple question. The answer is very simple. We have to stop and ask ourselves, I have a budget. I don't know what it is, but I have it. How much of the money that goes out of my checking account is for necessities, and how much of the money that goes out of my checking account is for extras? Every human being is entitled to mishkas. There was once a rabbi we had, I used to say about him, he's so normal that it's crazy. He doesn't have any mishkas. Right? We're all entitled to mishkas. But what's a necessity and what's discretionary? What's extra? Do you know that 75% of respondents in the U.S. were asked if fast food is a luxury or a necessity. I don't think they were asked about tomahawk, not about the loaf. Fast food. 75% of the people said that's a luxury. Honestly, a new car is a luxury or is a necessity? So the Master was not entitled to some, but to what point and to how much? You know, this once a Shabbos is going to be a Buddha auction. I get a chance to open the book. But many years ago, they always come up with wild things that you could win. $5 in a dream, maybe you win. So one year, the Chevra came up with a confounded idea. It was called Around the World. Okay? So it was summer in the mountains, Sukkot in Eretz Yisrael, winter in Florida, Pesach in a hotel. And the only thing that Taka didn't catch on was Schwartz and Lakewood. Everything else is not wild anymore. There are people we know that this is how they live. They have a bungalow. They go into Sukkot in Eretz Yisrael. Zichah midwinter vacation in Florida. That's what the kids are. They got to go with that. Then you go, right? And the question is, people feel if I can't do all of them, then I have to sit down and have a heart-to-heart conversation with my children to explain to them how poor we are. That's where we landed. Now, what's the idea of the vacation? I remember someone came into my house right before Rosh Hashanah, and he was complaining to me how the world is not crazy. He was going to Eretz Yisrael. This year, Yom Kippur was on a Thursday. So if you go to Eretz Yisrael, and you spend whatever, I don't know how much it was, 50, 20,000, whatever Shana apartment goes for, right? You have to go already before the Kippur, because the question I'm talking about. But to sit in Yerushalayim doing nothing from the Kippur to something, this question doesn't pass. So add the bill of your mortgage to your bungalow, plus your house, plus your Shana apartment. You have to rent another apartment up north. And the guy's telling me, I just can't do it. So I said, it's a done. That's what we do. I said, I'm not doing it. Right? But, so, what just happened? Why are you going to Eretz Yisrael for Sukkot? To be shoyif the Avi of Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael? So your children should have a Yom Tov? Because that is what you have to do. $50,000, $70,000, $80,000, whatever it costs. Plus the chef and the food and the this and the that. For what? Guy sitting there, I have to do it. What? That's what ends up happening. We decided we're living life for others. We're not living life for ourselves. And we have zero control over our lives. We're allowing people, not sure who or what or where, who started it, who continued it, but this is how I live my life. How do you get out of this? And that's what tonight's event is for. There's an organization, LSJ, Kalish, many others, who dedicate hours of their time to sit down with couples. Now, before you shoot me and say, I don't budget, might not be a bad idea. Before that, figure out how much money am I spending for real that I need to spend? Tuition, I have no choice. Whether I like it or not, I got to pay tuition. At this point, whether I should or shouldn't, but I have to pay a mortgage. My electric's got to stay on. And how much of this is discretionary spending? If we knew what that number was, I'm warning you, it's going to be a lot more than we think. And if we knew what that number was, it would be painful. Half the Yitzhara would be gone right then and there. I had a fellow who came over to me once after we sat down with LSJ. And he said, you realize, my discretionary spending was over $50,000 a year? And I'm sitting here saying that I can't afford a house? How do I live with myself knowing that if my discretionary look for so many things. Many of you are holding on the cost of paying for chasanas. Chasanas are not cheap. The numbers they throw around, $60,000 to make a chasana. Wouldn't it be invigorating to be able to pay for a chasana without having to worry about it for 1 second? Or as a person just told me recently, you're trying to enjoy the chasana, you thought you put away enough money, and in the middle of Chevra that credit card bill comes. And I have no idea how to pay for it. Support our children. Or maybe just, I shouldn't need credit bill. The credit card bill comes every month. I should be comfortable. Why? Because I have an understanding of what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. And again, I'm not here to tell the Olam, only spend exactly, but know what and why. If I'm going on a vacation, it's because I made a decision that for myself and my spouse, we need to get away for a few days. It's time for our family to go together as a family and to create memories that will last for a lifetime. That's the beginning, the middle, and the end. Where, what, who, why? It's irrelevant. It doesn't make a difference. People say, can't save money. Can't save money. It's a chasana b'tachon. If you have real b'tachon, Kadosh Baruch Hu is the provider. Honestly, is that a sane story to say? After all, people, the average person can make a chasana probably is more than a third of his yearly income. What's Chaim writes that very often Kadosh Baruch Hu will give a person parnasa years before for later. It's not doctor. Really, working in the company. I believe my daughter's going to become Kehilla. The next day my boss is going to call me in and give me a 33% raise. And if I don't believe that, it's possibly chasana and b'tachon. It's a little bit out of that. Parents say, I'm going on vacation. I know it's a kasha chasana. Ich habe parents b'tachon. What? Same. But if we stop and we think, many women have this thing, it's really not my problem, it's my husband's problem. It's my husband's problem. He signed the tzubah. It's his job to provide, if I can answer that question, mezayos. He has to basically feed. And enechanam, if a woman says, I surrender my power to spend, whatever my husband wants, that's what it is. I don't advise her for shalom bayis, but then maybe enechanam, she has the right to step back. But for a healthy home, what really has to happen is that a couple, as a couple, knows what's coming in, knows what's being spent, knows why and how it's being spent, and then with shalom bayis, a couple can make a decision together. This is kedai, and this is not kedai. And this is how we spend money. People say, what am I supposed to tell my children? Children come to me. So one thing, never tell your children. Don't tell them you can't afford it. It's hard for a child to do that. The answer is, every person has priorities. Our priorities are, we don't feel that this is something that's going to spend money. We do other things. We don't go to the country in the summer. We go away for summers. We don't this, we do that. Whatever it is, this is a decision that we make. This is the way we do things, and based on that, we decided that this is something that is not kedai. Now again, if there's 24 children in your daughter's class that has a certain sneaker, tomorrow there will be 25. That's life. That's the way it goes. But when it comes to bigger and other things, we can explain it to our children. Not that we can't afford it. Not that you're in debt, not that you're a loser. We're in control. And the truth is, when we feel that way, it's a different world. And if I could add one more point. We all have discretionary spending. Many of us, if we take the number of discretionary spending that we have and stop and think, what do I do to make this money? Is this why I'm sending my wife out to work? So I can go to Orlando in the winter plus this, and that's her salary, and therefore she's going to work every day for that? Is it kedai? Is the reason why she's going out to work for this? Is the reason why I took on an extra responsibility at work, or I'm at work later, is because of what? Is this worth it? But when we have no cheshbon, we just feel the pressure to go, okay, I need more money, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll send my wife to work. Stop. What am I doing? How am I spending? How am I bringing in this money? And what's kedai and what's not kedai? Just to mention the last thing, I mentioned about being Khal. We all have this age. We have to be Khal in some way. And it's important. You look in a primary kindergarten boys yearbook, they ask all the children to tell them what they're going to be when they grow up. The most common two answers are firemen and policemen, right? Because those are the guys who walk the bookies. They tell people what to do, right? When we get a little bit older, and we realize, no, there's better ways to be Khal than that. We all have it in us, and we have to realize it. And the middle, to just accept the fact that I'm just going to live middle class, mediocre, that's a hard thing to do. How do we count that? So first of all, I want to mention, when I grew up in Flatbush, there was a Schwartz to be in Erlich Balabas. That Schwartz is gone. I remember once I told somebody, I was sitting in a dinner, and two people were fighting, the two Chevra were fighting with each other. The one thing that they agreed on is that your father was the most earnest businessman they ever saw. The simcha on his face to hear that. Does that mean anything to us? When was the last time we strived that people should say that us, that we're Elich, that we're from, that our davening is a davening, our learning is a learning, that we should have a stolz in our ruchnis? We don't have it. So if that's the case, we have to look elsewhere. We have to bring it back. We have to focus on ruchnis. Another point. Focus on being a father. Do you know how many people that you're jealous of who go to hotels for Pesach? You know why they go? Shouldn't say it publicly. Because they can't sit down with a seder with their kids. Never from COVID. They came mad. It's like, it's good on. You go to a hotel, you put on your kittel, and walk around, and come back. Yeah, we're holding. Each one of us has an opportunity to be a father. Think about it. Would you be able to take each one of your kids out for lunch? What would the conversation be like over a lunch if you went out? We don't put enough time in our family. Being a king in one's house, being a father. How many of us have 3-year-olds? Your kid comes home and is telling you something. You have to ask your wife, what do you say? We're not connected. So then we need to find other things. If we focused on what was important, if we were focused on being a parent, if we were focused on raising daughters, if we were focused on the fact that I want people to say that I'm an early businessman, and I live and I know that I have one chance to mess up, and that's the way I'm going to live my life. I want that people should say about me, my children should say about me. You want to find them, go look at my medrash. If that was the goal, if that's what made us chashuv, the other parts wouldn't be. So if I'll just to end off, I think I want to grab over time. But to end off, LSJ is here as part of this evening, offering to sit down with couples to do basic budgeting or advanced budgeting, whatever you want. I encourage every person here. You have to know. It's shocking to most of us. What is coming in? What's going out? Why is it going out? And what am I doing? And Daniel is going to speak, show opportunities to how, once a person has something extra, what he can do with it, how people can make chasnas, b'menuchas hanefesh, how people can support Aiden's b'menuchas hanefesh. For a lot of people, it's a pain. But before I finish, there are people who, unfortunately, maybe are looking at me and saying, yeah, I was waiting for you to tell that to my neighbor. But for myself, for me, I'm credit card debt. I'm talking not going on vacations. What's the answer to that person? The answer to that person is, you ever thought about it? This person's $25,000 in credit card debt. It didn't happen in a vacuum. Speaking to Rabbi Eliezer for opening the preparation for this event, he shared with me a thought that his Rebbe said. Having a person said, nothing happened. I just gained 5 pounds a year. That's all. That's all. Nothing major. Right? A person goes $300 a month in debt. He's $300 short. And it goes on his credit card. After 12 months, like a cheshbon, is $3,600. After 2 years, it's $7,200. Now he's getting charged 25% interest on that money. Before he turns it around, it's $25,000. He's helpless. Russia can't. $300 a month. If he would have realized that that's all that's happening, now the bills come, he can't. He's juggling. Stop and think. And it's $300 a month. Of course I would have taken that tutoring job. Of course I would have even perhaps taken that offer from tzedakah for my shvager. It's the difference between balancing that budget or not. But I partially didn't count. I thought I'm $25,000 short. So if I did the no matter where a person's holding, control is out. One question people ask: if I have a lot of money, do I have the right to spend it? Just 2 things. Make sure it's really a lot. And number 2, do it because you want to, not because you want to impress somebody else. You want to go do something? Make a cheshbon. If it's Kedai, sure. If it's Abayis, because Baruch Hu gave you an opportunity, could be. But don't do it for them. Do it for yourself. I Baruch Hu to each and every one of you. To stop and to think. Make a cheshbon hanefesh simply. What is my relationship with money? How can I improve my relationship with money? And once we do that, and we take the opportunity to take the services that are provided, whether it's sitting down with a coach as a couple, whether it's some of the other investments or other opportunities as we'll see on a more practical level. We should talk about Zeicha and emphasis in the We should look forward to marrying off our children. We should have what we need, and we should be Zeicha Taka, as the Mishnah says, Ezu Asher, the Emes Ashiris, Hasamech. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi everyone. I don't think I know one of you, which is quite shocking. You go somewhere in Khal Yisrael with 100 people in a room and not one person looks familiar. Well, my name is Doni Brodie, and together with Yehuda, I sit on the board of this amazing organization called LSJ. LSJ is a subsidiary organization. It's part of the OU, and it was founded a little over 5 years ago with a dual mission statement. The first is to provide every single person in Khal Yisrael with resources that they may or may not have been deprived of from an educational standpoint, but secondly, that it should be free. So in that vein, I just want to let everybody know that Rabbi Gewirtzman and I have spoken at several of these events, and I came from Monsey, and I'm proud to tell you I'm not taking a nickel for this. Rabbi Gewirtzman has driven from Lakewood to Monsey to speak at a few events, and he also does this free of charge. And our sense of achrayus to give back and to educate people as far as things that we have learned in our own lives and wishing that we had known these things earlier is too overwhelming to pass up on. So I plan on spending the next 15 or 20 minutes, hopefully making you laugh a few times. I happen to be funny, my wife and kids don't think so, but I'll gauge and see if you agree. So the first objective tonight is each of you will find a piece of paper on your chair. I want every single one of you, men and women, I don't know how many of you are couples, to sign up, fill this out, give it to Yehuda, and somebody from our office will reach out to you to set up an intake call and then pair you with an appropriate coach. So that's the objective for tonight. Before I begin, one word of introduction, and that would be every single thing that I'm about to tell you. Listen, I learned in Kehilla for a number of years. I very much identify as a yeshiva guy. I happen to work in finance, but that's more derech agav than anything else. Everything that I'm about to tell you tonight, I hope it's not all chidushim, but everything is just in the realm of hishtadlus. This is not something that a person should feel is a guarantee in any way, shape, or form. It's also not something that you should feel any level of regret for not having done in the past. If you didn't know, so then obviously you're not going to be mun for not doing the hishtadlus. And then lastly is that in the Welt, this sugya is called personal finance. Now personal is a very important adjective. That means that my finance and your finance are by definition going to be different. That means that I might need, I don't want to harp on what Rabbi Gewirtzman was saying, but I might need a new car, and you might say, I'm happy with the car with the gas leak. And you might need to go to a bungalow for the summer, and I live in Muncie, and I think people that go to bungalows are just literally putting money in the fireplace. And we're entitled to be different. But the point is that when you sit down with the coach, who's an objective third party who hopefully, or more often than not, does not know who you or your wife are, you'll be able to get some sort of level of comfort that, this is a person who is not making judgments and is just helping me put my life in perspective. So with that, I just want to, take you through a few slides and walk you through what being coached is like and the benefits that it could have in your life. The reason why I do this is we all know making chassanas is an overwhelming thing. I know I'm not in that tekufa yet. My children are getting older, and it's something that if you're not thinking about, it's just because you're consciously choosing to block it out. But when you see people marry off kids, and it really wrecks the shalom bayis and the parents only, they're forced to spend money that they can't, and the pressure and the stress it puts on the chinuch of the other children, it's not a vibe that's desirable, and it's something that I know from the things that I've educated myself on is very, very, very avoidable. And my goal is that every one of us should be able to walk our children down to the chuppah with menuchas hanefesh and no daiga in the world. Now, if you make a chasana tomorrow, I don't take a price for that. Let's talk about the younger kids. So the first thing is, no matter who you are, there are three types of you. I can know with certainty you fall into one of these three categories. You either have credit card debt. Now, as Rabbi Gewirtzman said, $25 a day on a credit card, spending more money than you have, assuming you have no savings, will amount to $30,000 in credit card debt in just 3 years. Now, a coach will help you get yourself organized, identify where that $25 leak is coming from, and if you are a candidate, meet Khal Yaakov does have organizations that will help you as long as you can present a cogent and clear plan as to how you will be able to get out of this and that you won't fall back into it. There are people that will help you. The second person is the person who's living paycheck to paycheck. He might have meat boards at his kiddush, he might have a new car, but underneath the hood, there's nothing going on. It's empty. His checking accounts are empty. He's constantly stressing out, moving money from his HELOC and doing all sorts of crafty things just to project an image, but he is effectively living paycheck to paycheck. Coaching is for him too, and we'll see why. The third person is the fortunate guy who has extra money. He just has no idea what to do with it. Just on this guy, I can tell you that Yehuda and I are both on the board, but we also both coach. So I've seen it all. I have coached couples that span the gamut, both from a family size count and also from an income cohort perspective. So I recently coached a couple. He is a Rebbe, and she has some sort of Heimish side geschäft going on. And he told me that when he was bar mitzvah, he had $8,000. He had $8,000 given to him from bar mitzvah presents. And he had a grandfather who was financially savvy. He told him how to open up a mutual fund and put the money in the mutual fund. This guy is today 46 years old. That $8,000 has grown to $60,000. And he literally, until a few years ago, didn't even know how to log in. He forgot about it. But the point is, he did nothing, and all of a sudden, his $8,000 multiplied almost 8 times. And then, I coached another couple last week. They're living in Ramat Eshkol. They had $86,000 they're married for 1 year. The cash is not sitting in a high-yield savings account, it's sitting in a checking account. They just had no idea. So the point is, there are people that know what to do with extra money that they don't need, and there are people that don't know what to do with extra money. So we're going to educate all 3 of you. I know it's late, just bear with me. Okay, so what a budget does is, it's not going to make you rich, but it will help you identify where the leaks are. So, the 3 ways to think about it is you want to see your life, your financial life, at least on one piece of paper. You want to make sure that every dollar that's coming in has a goal and an objective and a job. And then once you have an idea of what's coming in and what's going out, you can then put yourself in place to have a strategy and execute that to accomplish your goals. So, most people, they don't have an income problem. I can tell you that there are Rabbeim with 9 kids that between them and their wives, they're making $150,000 and they're somehow managing to save money every month. And I can also tell you that there are Park Avenue attorneys married to radiologists in prestigious hospitals with 3 kids that are in credit card debt. And the answer is that they're just not organized. They have a visibility problem. As Kim here, I work so hard, I'm entitled to go on vacation. And this person, it's just a matter of having an idea of what's coming in every month and what's going out. And once you see it all on one piece of paper, you will have an answer to the question. You'll know where the $25 is coming from or where it's not coming from. And then we're going to talk about strategy. So before we get to the bottom right box, what you do with extra money, I want to take you through 2 couples. These are real stories. The first one is a Khal couple. I don't know how many of you are in Khal, but Baruch Hashem, this is Lakewood, so I'm going to take some liberties to assume that you at least know some of them. This is Chaim and Rachel. Chaim, this is a beautiful thing. So the top left chart is income. Now this is, if you sit down with the coach, you will get some sort of sheet that looks like this, and this is what a coach will present you with. So as is amazing, Khal couples, usually me and my wife, who happens to be here with me, we have 2 line items on our income statement. I have a job and she has a job, and that's it. The average Khal couple has anywhere from 8 to 12 different things going on. So Chaim, he learns in Khal, he gets $2,200 a month. He goes to Night Seder for another $500. He does Shmiras Hastar and then takes tests for another $200. He goes to a Far Tux Khal for another $350. On the way home from Second Seder once a week, he stops off and tutors somebody. He's a learning Rebbe for 1 month in the summer in a day camp. The Khal that he's in gives him a bonus before Sukkot and Pesach. Rachel is a speech therapist. She also tutors. She gives a crash course before finals. She also is an organizer. She will help every single high school girl figure out that the pink sweatshirts don't go with the blue sweatshirts. And then they get a tax refund, and their parents help with tuition. When you add that all up, they're making $11,000 a month. The problem is, when you go over to the right, you can see that their expenses are $11,716 a month. Now what the coach will do is literally line these numbers up and say, listen, off the bat, there are a couple of things here that look a little out of whack. Your mortgage of $3,400, there's not much you can do. $600 in utilities, I can see that you're low income. Most utility companies have programs and grants and subsidies for people who are low income. They were eligible for a $100 monthly grant from the local utility company. The car payment, there's not much you can do. Car insurance, they didn't have a defensive driver discount that would save them money there. Groceries, $2,150 a month. Now, groceries, I'm going to double click on it in a little bit of time, but groceries, what this coach told them is you should be eligible for food stamps. Now, a lot of people have pride issues with food stamps. Interestingly, they have no pride issues when it comes to taking Jersey Care for health insurance. As a taxpayer, I am thrilled to meet from people that are taking advantage of the taxes that I'm paying. So, please, don't have any shame. If you're entitled to Jersey Care, go for the food stamps too. I have no issue with it. Takeout, they were spending $100 a month on takeout because Rachel works late at a couple of nights a month. She has to work late and she just can't get it together. She needs her cleaning help, that's not going to be cut, and you can go down the list. Health and beauty, they're spending $47 a month. When you add up the washing sets for the fall and the shakel and the other, whatever it's called, and then all of the boys are getting haircuts every 2 months. Subscriptions, Ami, Mishpacha, an internet filter, Circle, Nothing Radio, all of these things. It's shocking, by the way. Most people are spending over $100, almost $100 a month on these recurring subscriptions, which you have to realize, if that's what's getting you into credit card debt, $658 a month is going to end up $30,000 in 3 years. Is it really worth it to know what the coolest recipe is for Shavuot to be $30,000 in credit card debt? That's a question you have to ask yourself. So anyway, this is what a coach will present you with. Now I want to take you to the next one. This is Yossi and Tamar. This is an amazing story. This is one of the first couples that LSJ ever coached. This actually came, I changed the names and the professions, and you will not know who these people are. But this is a real story. They came to us in 2020. It was one of the first couples that we coached. And they were drowning. So he was in construction, she was a teacher. They were making $12,416 a month. With the proposals over here, and then when you go to the income, they were spending $16,175 a month. So they were short $3,700 a month. Not only that, they were already $80,000 in debt between family chayvus, gemach loans, and credit card debt. The coach gave them proposals right away. Their car insurance was too high, should be priced. They had too much cleaning help for what they could afford. They were spending $800 a month on Amazon. The takeout food was nonsense. The health and beauty is, also stuff that they could have cut. And Kriya Tutor, the school had an active adult program. What was amazing, so the coach basically identified a few $1,000s a month that they can cut, and also said, listen, you have to realize, Rachel, you're only working, not Rachel, Tamar, you're only working part-time. You really need to take on an extra couple of hours. And Yossi, you really need to work a little harder to make a little bit more money. And once it was put into perspective, Yossi, if you just work an extra couple hours a day doing another odd job or trying to build out your business, you can climb out of this hole. Yossi, the light bulb went off in his head. Anyway, this couple called back a few months ago and they asked for another session with their coach. And they said, listen, we haven't spoken to you in 6 years. We want to let you know what's going on. And you can see that not only now are they out of the debt, they have $25,000 in savings. They've maintained the lower level of expenses, and they've grown their income to the point that they are $10,000 a month ahead. They're making a bar mitzvah in the fall. They're funding out of cash flow, so they're automatically investing $6,000 a month. And then after the bar mitzvah, they are going to be investing $10,000 a month. Now, this is a couple that is not wealthy by any stretch. They are very regular. They have used cars. They don't go on vacation. But 6 years ago, they were literally teetering on the verge of collapse. And today, they're confident. They're showing by. So you can see it on their faces. Their kids are happy. It's just an amazing thing. And all it took was somebody just turning on the lights and saying, if you just make these few small tweaks, you can be okay. So before we go to the next, it's a little video, it's a minute, I just want to give you one little muscle. So smoking, at this point, when I grew up, it was like becoming pretty evident that smoking was dangerous. But today, a pack of cigarettes by law has to have a label that says, smoking will kill you. Today, there are still people shockingly that smoke. The person that smokes today, that smokes a pack a day, knows in 30 years they will not have an easy time walking up a flight of steps. They know that. They don't need a doctor to tell them, if you keep this up, you will be in trouble in 30 years from now. They know that. What they do need is a Rav or a therapist to help them appreciate the value of the quality of life in 30 years. What a coach is not here to tell you that if you are doing something, that's the consequence. A coach is the one who's telling you that what you're doing is smoking. Living without a cheshbon is smoking. If you are going to spend $25 a day more than you spend, in 30 years you'll be in a tremendous amount of problem. You will not be able to use a credit card at a grocery store. You will not be able to, I can tell you people in my own shul that people know that they're in trouble, and They borrow money from this one to pay that one back, and then when the third guy sees them in the bagel store, I don't take my kids to the bagel. It's not a pleasant way to live. You're much better off being ahead. So anyway, I just want, this is a 1-minute video, and then we're going to pivot for the last few minutes to strategies, practical strategies that we can all employ to put ourselves in a better position. But this video is the basis of the framework that everybody, I hope, comes out with after this is over.
Let's look at my friends Jack and Blake. Jack starts saving money at 21 years old. He saves $2,400 a year, that's $200 a month. And he does that from age 21 to age 29, and then he stops saving money. His friend Blake looks up and says, hey, my friend Jack has got a head start on me, I'm going to catch up. I'm also going to start saving $2,400. He starts at 30 years old saving $2,400, $200 a month. Meanwhile, his friend Jack is putting in zero. Everybody say zero. He quits. His friend starts from age 30 all the way to age 67. Now, Jack, who started earlier, only puts in $21,600, and Blake puts in $91,200. Here's the question. Look what happens. Jack, who started earlier, puts $250 at 67, and Blake, who started later, has $1.4 million. Ends up with $1 million less. He put in almost $100,000. The guy put in $20,000. The guy who put in $20,000 beat the guy who put in $91,000 by $1 million just because he started early. That's the power of compound interest. That says get started as soon as you can.
Here's the amazing thing. You would think Jack had some amazing Einfall. He figured out how to day trade penny stocks, or he figured out the next, Charlotte, North Carolina, to buy some multifamily deal from some Lincoln shul that didn't know what else to do with his time. Here's what Jack did. There is a study that was recently done by Fidelity. Fidelity is one of the largest brokerage houses in the country. And they tried to figure out who are the best investors. Are they male? Are they female? Are they educated? Are they uneducated? Are they married, divorced, fat, skinny? They're just trying to figure out who are the best investors. And what they concluded was the best investors were those that were dead. And their family members did not report in the death certificate. And what they concluded, based on that research, is that the less you do, once you automate a very healthy and sound habit once you automate it and just set it and forget it, you will be much better off than the most educated, savvy day trader that there is. The biggest hedge funds, only 10 or 15% of hedge funds outperform passive investors. So, what I'm going to tell you, this is not my professional advice, although it would be if you asked it, but this is called the S&P 500. The S&P 500 is accessible for free, virtually for free, in a whole variety of ways. Personally, I use Fidelity.com. Now, I'm going to spend 15 seconds on this because I really don't want to put anybody to sleep here. But the S&P 500 is a collection of the largest and best 500 companies in this country. And it's structured in a way that auto-rebalances. So if you look, in 1990, those were the biggest companies. IBM, ExxonMobil, General Electric, Philip Morris, a cigarette company, and Shell. Those were the biggest companies. But today, none of those companies are in the top companies in the S&P. It's all tech companies. And every step along the way, if you look at the left, once you get money invested in the S&P 500, there has never been a 12-year period that you've lost money, and there has never been a 20-year period that you've made less than 5.5%, and there's never been a 40-year period that you've made less than 9%. And once you get to 10 years, there's a pretty high level of confidence that your projected pre-tax return will be 10%. Now that's what Jack did. He put the $200 a month from when he was 21 until he was 30 in the S&P 500 and fell asleep. And $21,000 grew to $2.5 million by the time he retired. So what does that mean for you practically? So just to put it in perspective, if you do this, if you put any amount of money every month into the S&P 500, which again is free, and history is any indicator of future performance, which is obviously no guarantee, in 40 years, 92% of the balance in your account will be profit. That's what we call Yesh Me'ayin. Warren Buffett, the best investor that I've ever read, life is like a snowball. The important thing is finding wet snow and a really long hill. The most important and valuable talent that all of us have is time. It's not brains, it's not sophistication, it's just getting this set up and forgetting about it. Now practically, let's go back to the budget. So, groceries is fascinating because I sit down with couples. There are couples that are spending $1,000 a week, and there are couples that are spending $400 a week. All of the kids, they all go to sleep fully fed and happy, with a smile on their face. In fact, the couple that's got the $400 a week grocery bill, that family, their kids are probably happier because their parents aren't stressed out, so they tuck them in and say Shema with them together. The $1,000 people, he's coming home at 8 o'clock because he's got to hustle to pay for it. And their kids don't see their parents as much, or at least not as happy. But these are real live numbers from 2026, and this is a meal plan. The $450 a week grocery family, this is what their menu looks like. They are feeding their kids something like $1.80 per person for breakfast. So that's cereal and milk and sliced melon or pancakes. For supper, tacos, chopped meat and corn, or roast chicken with rice. The middle class family, who's spending $942 a week, they're having eggs, cheese, potatoes, and toast, Greek yogurt with granola and fruit, and lettuce, salad, and tuna and dressing for lunch, sliders, buns, fries, and coleslaw, or schnitzel, broccoli, and dipping sauce for supper. Now the prices, these are real live prices from 2026 grocery stores in Muncie and Lakewood. And this couple is spending almost $500 a week less than the other couple. Now, what does that mean? Now, put in the context of passive returns and compound interest in the S&P 500, it's $12.5 million over 40 years. Now, think about how many 65-year-old people that you know that really could have spent a few $100s a week less on groceries that are lost. They're 65 or 70 years old, and ask them, how different would your life be if you had $12.5 million? Most of them will say pretty different. And when you tell them, had you just fed your kids chicken on the bone instead of schnitzel, you could have been there. And they just didn't know. So anyway, the point of this is just to put your budget in perspective. Don't think that a little, small, imperceptible change over a long enough period of time is inconsequential. The next thing, and this is the last one I'm going to talk about, although I have a lot of things to say on a lot of things, Amazon. The single most profitable patent in the last 25 years in the United States of America was one-click checkout. Jeff Bezos at Amazon.com. They realized Amazon had a problem. They realized that almost 80% of things that were added to shopping carts were not purchased because it was too much of a pain in the neck to have to enter your credit card, confirm your zip code, get a login with a code, email to confirm it's your identity. And when he patented one-click checkout, that number fell by 2/3. To the point that more than half of things that were then added to carts were actually purchased. He took all of the thought and friction out of buying something. He eliminated it. It was so profitable, this patent, that Apple actually for 20 years paid Amazon a royalty fee for the rights to use their one-click checkout technology. That patent expired in 2017, which is when PayPal, Shopify, and all the different Google Pays that you see when you check out on something online, those all started in 2017 when Amazon's patent ran out. Most people, these are the 8 most frequently ordered things on Amazon that people regret buying. A white warmer, a baby food processor, hairbrush sets, juicers and blenders, egg cookers, hobby starter kits, bulk organizer bins, and supplement bundles, people that have to add things just to get free shipping. And these are things that people buy, and 2 weeks later, they never use them. Now, it might seem $45. I can afford $45. But again, put that in perspective of what a weekly poor choice will do to you over time. So, what we recommend is, I know it's inconvenient, but if you disable this and force yourself to not let Jeff Bezos beat me, I'm going to force myself to have to enter my credit card every time I want to buy something. Or, at the very least, when you add something to your cart, wait 24 hours before checking out. Or, and maybe it's a combination of all three, give yourself a budget. I'm only spending $300 a month on Amazon, and if my daughter needs another set of gel pens, she's going to have to wait till next month. This is very powerful. So, I have a picture. I happen to be a total hypocrite over here because I don't like chicken on the bone, and I only like schnitzel. But the difference between the two of them is really a lot of money. It's the equivalent, my choice of preferring a $7 or $8 per person supper over a $3 or $4 per person supper is the equivalent to me tutoring 10 times a week, teaching 10 months a year, washing 12 shekels a week, or working part-time as a medical biller. These are the same things. I can choose to save myself a few $100s a week by feeding my family less expensive food, or I can choose to feed my family more expensive food and then earn money and then pay taxes to compensate the difference. So I want everybody to fill out a piece of paper and give it to Yehuda and sign up. And the other thing that I want you all to do is to memorize these numbers over here. 268 months is the amount of time that it takes a recurring monthly contribution into an S&P 500 index fund to multiply by 1,000 times, assuming that the rate of return is 10%. That's 22 and a half years. So what does that mean? So when we think about a wedding, marrying off a kid, my wife will make fun of me. Baruch Hashem, we have 6 amazing children. The day that I get that social security number, I'm opening up an account for them. All of them. And they all, this is what I do for my kids. And I'm not showing them off. All of you can afford $2 a day. Fine, $2 a day for your kids. $2 a day, the number might be 50, it might be 60, maybe it's $3 a day, whatever it is. But if you can open up an account for your children and put $2 a day into that account, by the time that child is 20 or 22 years old, you will have $50,000 to $60,000 in that account. And that's not something that's a surprise party. We all hope to walk our children down to the chuppah. And if you can just automate a habit of saving $2 a day, you don't have to worry about how you're going to pay for their chasana. And if you really have asabas, you can do $3 or $4 a day. But the point is, the earlier you start thinking about it, the less stressed you can be later on. Retirement. If you just think about 10% as a return number, if a person thinks how much he might need, most people will say that $2 million might not be enough, but you have to realize that by the time you retire, you probably won't have a mortgage, you probably will not be paying tuition anymore. $10,000 to $20,000 a month of passive income is not a terrible thing. All that takes is $6 a day. So my recommendation would be take a few dollars a day for each kid and put it away for their future. And take $3 a day for you and $3 a day for your spouse and put it into a retirement account. This way, at the very least, you know that you will be at least approaching third base when these bills come due. So these are the 2 accounts that I would recommend that everybody take note of, and when you meet with the coach, you will be educated enough to ask about them. One is called, by the way, these cartoons, my daughter, she's very talented, she made them. They come from the Coventry itself, from artificial intelligence, but you see that the woman is tznius and the guy's wearing a hat. It's fantastic. A 529 plan. So the reason why this is important is I really don't want to belabor the point of taxes, which get very complicated, but suffice it to say that if you have any of these 2 accounts, there are no taxes. Now technically a 529 plan can only be used for education. How does that help you with a wedding? So what that means is, when your child approaches the age of 20, when they will, regardless of whether or not you did this, they will have education-related expenses. You accrue a balance in this account, and then you submit those education-related expenses and reimburse yourself those expenses you would have paid anyway. And that money is how you think about paying for a simcha. And retirement is the Roth IRA. The Roth IRA is one of the most powerful tools that's available to families in America. But one thing that is very important to know, in the state of New Jersey, where we have the source of being right now, if your AGI is below $75,000, now there are people that make millions of dollars a year that have depreciation offset, that they don't really report much income. The state of New Jersey will give you a $750 one-time match for free per kid. That means when you open up a 529 plan, you put $750 in there, the state of New Jersey will double that and make it $1,500, which will really turbocharge your auto investment. Lastly, I just want to say one thing before I will stay and answer any questions that any of you have. I just want to tell you that this is a judgment-free space. I just tell you 2 funny stories. I coached a couple, and they had, I believe it was like $150 a month of subscriptions. And they had the most sophisticated internet filters from Tag, but Tag wasn't firm enough. They had this one, but they also had a Netflix subscription. And I had no opinion, judgment-free zone. Everyone is entitled to do whatever they do. Also, another funny one. There was a, sometimes, I don't know if I can make Ozempic jokes here. I probably could. Probably can make an Ozempic joke. But there was, sometimes you have, a couple and, the guy's a little embarrassed and he says, I have a prescription. It's a couple $100 a month. It's not really something that's negated to skip it. Let's talk about other things. And then you can have a guy who's like, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. You should do it too. It's the best thing. I got a guy over here, he's got a compound pharmacy, it comes in a bag, 20 minutes later, you lost 50 pounds. And not only that, you should tell people, he'll cut his grocery bill in half. I don't need anything. So, judgment-free zone. Everything flies. One other story I had is in the health and beauty section, we ask people, how much do you spend washing shekels every year? Everyone's like, I have no idea. And okay, so it's very formulaic. How many do you have? How often do you wash them? I wash this one myself. This one I send out. The whole thing. Anyway, one of the things is, monthly expenses, nails, waxing, manicure, and everything. The guy pops up and says, yeah, I spend $5 a day at the mikveh. I go every morning. And the truth of the matter is he couldn't afford it. He was putting it on his credit card, and the bulk of their shortfall every month was from a person who, a Hamish guy, was going every single morning to the mikveh, 340 days, whatever the number is, and he's paying $5 a day. Now, I am not here to tell you, again, as I introduced, personal is the adjective, personal finance. Nobody is here to tell you that this is what you have to do. This is not kashrus. This is a diet. Now, if you can afford the $5 a day, or if you can afford the internet filter with the Netflix, then gate is unto hate. But what I'm here to tell you is that if you have a leak, these are possible leaks that should be addressed. So anyway, this is a very personal topic, and nobody will judge you, and you will definitely not regret having done this. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And if not, it was a pleasure meeting you.